5 negative personality traits of Virgo zodiac sign explained. Virgos are a take-it-or-leave-it kind of sign, and everyone knows it. They mix the good and the bad in a one-of-a-kind package, and while they're often charismatic to the extreme, their negative characteristics are often lurking just below the surface, waiting for the worst possible moment to strike. If you want to roll with Virgo, you need to learn how to take the bad with the good. And that's precisely what makes this sign one of the most criticized in the zodiac. But while everyone is aware of Virgo's best characteristics, not everyone knows about the bad ones. Today, we aim to change that by sharing some of the negative personality traits of Virgo. Let's get started. Number 1. They're perfectionists. Perfectionists with themselves and others. Virgos are perfectionists by excellence, always looking for defects and ways to improve, always looking for opportunities to grow and identifying deficiencies and failures in everything that surrounds them. While self-actualization is a good thing, Virgos tend to take it too far, becoming hypercritical of their own actions and judging other people severely based on their need to improve. This desire to achieve perfection pushes Virgo to demand more and more of themselves. Not satisfied with torturing themselves with their perfectionism, they often turn that characteristic towards others, demanding perfection even when such a thing can't be achieved. Virgos are merciless when demanding improvement and will always remind people of their failures and how they can improve. Usually, this is Virgo trying to be helpful, as they sincerely believe that improving oneself is the best thing one can do. But whether they're right or not, it can be incredibly annoying to the person being criticized. Speaking of criticism, number 2. They're critical. They're critical to the extreme. To put it simply, there isn't a thing that Virgo won't criticize. Virgos are hyper-analytical and have an eye for detail unlike any other. They notice everything, and since they see everything, they have plenty of things to criticize. Though it might sound like an excuse, Virgos can't mind their business. They notice too many things that the thought of merely ignoring something they can comment on is unheard of. Older, more mature Virgos may have learned to keep their comments to themselves, particularly when they don't want to alienate their friends and loved ones, but this isn't a guarantee. Being critical about themselves and others is second nature to Virgo, and even if they're making the effort to keep it to themselves, the truth is that there's a good chance they're criticizing someone in their minds. Number 3. They're close-minded to the extreme. Virgos have a very fixed view of the world, and there's nothing you can do to change it, mainly because their worldview is often linked to their sense of self-worth. Virgos pride themselves on understanding how the world works, and on being logical, knowledgeable individuals. So, anything that challenges their worldview tends to be rejected on principle. As perfectionist as they are, they don't like to challenge their worldviews if they can help it, and are rather respectful of the status quo, enjoying solid power structures, particularly when they're at the top. The fact that Virgos seek perfection and despise mistakes makes it very hard for them to change their worldviews, even when they're proven wrong. Particularly when proven wrong, because they've linked their self-worth with being right and perfect. Anything that challenges that assumption tends to be rejected on principle. It's much easier for Virgos to reject and mock a new concept than admit that they were wrong about it. Number 4. They're too judgmental. Not happy with being critical of other people's choices, Virgos tend to be very strict in their judgments of others, mainly if their actions are things Virgos would disagree with. Because Virgos tend to have a very strict worldview in which their preferences and tastes are the template against which they compare the rest of the world, they often reject other people's ideas and judge them harshly to avoid analyzing their own views. This means that Virgo won't only criticize another person's actions or behaviors, but it also means that Virgo will judge them based on them, ensuring even small disagreements are enough for Virgo to lose respect for the other party. For Virgo, if someone makes the wrong choices, they didn't just make a mistake. There's something wrong with them, and they won't hesitate to base their future interactions on what they perceive as the other party's shortcomings. Number 5. They're impossible to please. This particular negative trait is more harmful to friends and family members than to Virgo themselves, but it's worth mentioning because it's the kind of thing that can really ruin a family or a relationship. When a Virgo fails to get their critical and perfectionist nature in check, they'll often turn these characteristics to their friends and family, which is annoying for everyone involved. Virgo's children might grow up feeling insecure and like they're not enough, in no small part because Virgo parents are always criticizing without providing enough emotional support. The same goes for Virgo's romantic relationships. It's not uncommon for people dating or even marrying Virgos to feel like they can't live up to their expectations, which often harms their self-worth and self-esteem. Because of their overly analytical nature and highly critical mindset, Virgos tend to come off as cold and distant, even when they're actually trying to help, which only exacerbates the problem. This is perhaps the thing that most people hate about Virgo and the thing that makes them such a controversial sign. It hurts to feel like you don't live up to a Virgo's expectations, and anyone who has ever been on the receiving end of Virgo's non-stop criticism understands just how hard this can be. Conclusion: to put it simply, Virgo isn't an easy sign to please, and this leads to all kinds of problems in their life and their relationships. All of Virgo's negative traits stem from this, and learning how to conform and be satisfied with what life gives us is one of the most valuable lessons Virgo can learn. Why? Because sometimes it's easier and just plain better to accept flaws than to attempt to change them. In their endless pursuit of perfection, Virgos tend to push other people to the limit of their patience and their self-worth. They criticize, nag, complain, and overanalyze to the point that they destroy other people's self-esteem, even without realizing it, which makes it very hard to understand why some people prefer not to have to deal with Virgos at all. This perfectionism and desire to improve doesn't go away when Virgo is on their own either. In fact, some would say it gets worse. Virgos are highly critical of others, yes, but they're hypercritical of themselves, always finding a flaw in their behavior or actions, even if they're the only ones to notice it. Their perfectionism and desire to always do better push them to hope for unrealistic things and to pursue objectives they're not ready to face, which often ends up backfiring on them because they're not good with failure and frustration and will often internalize their mistakes to a pathological degree. Unhealthy Virgos tend to have very low self-esteem precisely because they ask too much of themselves and internalize their failures to a troubling degree, and they often make things worse by pushing away others with their relentless criticism and judgmental attitude. Healthy Virgos have learned to accept failure as merely another step toward success and have acquired healthy coping mechanisms for when things don't go their way. They've also learned not to blurt out every criticism that crosses their mind, and that people can make good choices for themselves, even if they're not what Virgo would have chosen for them. Learning to respect other people's choices and increasing their tolerance for frustration are two of the most important things Virgos can do to become better people. Thank you for listening to the episode. Please like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comment box.
Thank you for being part of today's horoscope forecast. Your feedback is important for us to improve and provide better insights. If you found our show helpful, please consider rating it. For an uninterrupted, ad-free experience, simply click the link in the description. Your support helps us to continue creating valuable content. Thank you for being here and see you tomorrow.